Hey, what is going on, everybody? This is Ben with the Restoration Rundown podcast, the podcast that's dedicated to you, the restoration business owner. Like I said, my name is Ben Riccardi, your host, and I am the owner of Ironclad Restoration Marketing, where I help restoration business owners get more sales just by getting their internet marketing right. Now, a lot of restoration contractors out there and a lot of contractors out there, while they're great at what they do, they oftentimes struggle with the estimating process. And today, I'm bringing on a guest that is solving those problems that a lot of you have out there. Some areas of contention when it comes to Xactimate. I noticed in the Rebels group that some people love it or they hate it. And today, my guest, a very special guest, I want to thank him for his time. He's a very busy guy. I want you guys to welcome on Jeff with Elkmont Estimates. He's on there now. Jeff, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Hey, man, how's it going? I appreciate your time coming on here. So, Jeff, we know you own Elkmont Estimating or Estimates. Why don't you give me a little bit of background about yourself, really how you got involved in the restoration industry and kind of what you do?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me on here. I have a real estate construction management degree, so I have a background in construction. And in about 2013, the Boulder floods happened just north of me, Boulder, Colorado. And I had the opportunity to volunteer to help clean out people's houses. And I really just enjoyed the work. We did it completely wrong because I wasn't with a restoration company. It was just like a Habitat for Humanity sort of thing. So we really didn't do anything right. But it kind of instilled and began the spark of the restoration industry that I enjoy. And I had the opportunity to join a Paul Davis franchise. So I owned one of those for a number of years. Really enjoyed that. It didn't quite work out, and that's okay. But I still kept within the industry and realized kind of as the COVID lockdowns were happening that there's a huge demand for outsourced estimating. And because I was never really formally taught how to estimate an invoice, I taught myself and had no guardrail. So I got really good at pushing the boundaries, if you will. And I had a friend of mine who requested that I help him do some estimates on 3 fires in the Denver area. And I said, yeah, sure. And we were all shut in our houses due to COVID. And I did it all virtually and got those 3 houses approved. And I figured, what if there's anybody else that needs help with this? And sure enough, it really just took off on me. So we've grown from just myself to myself and 2 other estimators, and it continues to grow.
Okay, that's awesome. I mean, that's a really cool journey. A lot of people seems to have come out of the COVID era with like a new hobby or idea, and it seems like you've come out with solving a huge problem in the industry. So that's really cool. Congratulations on your success. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you guys only serve? I know you're out of Colorado. You guys work with anybody nationwide?
Anywhere in the country.
Awesome. Okay. So you mentioned before you were a restoration business owner, a franchise owner. And so is that kind of where you got the inclination to say, hey, there's a big issue here. There's maybe some disconnect with the estimating and actually running the business. Did you see any challenges there when you were actually in it, before you really got involved in doing estimating side?
Yeah, I mean, there was never enough time to do everything at once. I mean, you hear that over and over with restoration company owners. And for me, I was either out in the field doing the work, or I was trying to sell the business, not sell the business itself, but like sell projects, the Paul Davis brand name, and then try to do the estimating and invoicing. And there just wasn't enough time for everything. And I kept finding myself gravitating more towards the invoicing because I knew that that's really where the money lay. And if I was doing the work wonderfully, yeah, exactly. And so if I was doing the work really well, but I wasn't invoicing for it, we've got some problems. So I implemented some systems on our end to be sure we were catching everything. And I just took more time, I think, than other office owners to really put it together and put it together well. And I think that's kind of where my vision lay, is there's got to be just a better way of doing this.
Yeah. And that seems, again, I love to draw parallels between, different industries and what I do, right? Which is marketing. Our job is to get those jobs coming in, because at the end of the day, whether you own the business or not, or you're just managing it, you're really good at restoring property damage, right? And you may not necessarily be an expert in marketing and sales and estimating for this thing, or invoicing or QuickBooks or anything like that. So, a lot of guys we see struggle, especially in a smaller end, or newbies are struggling with the marketing and the sales and all this stuff. So talk to me a little bit about, some common problems you see when it comes to the estimating outside of the obvious, that you already mentioned, where you just don't have time to do it, because you as a business owner, you have to wear 100 different hats already, right? So when it comes down to getting paid, which I guess is pretty important, I guess, right? If you're going to be doing this work, what are some of the biggest struggles that you're seeing, and even as a business owner that you can relate to now, and then being in this industry for this long? Walk me through a few of the most common things that you're seeing right now, which is driving the success of your estimating business.
A big one is probably budget. Most of our clients are probably doing less than $3 million in revenue a year. And I would say the vast majority of restoration companies in the US are probably doing that. And the trouble they run into is you have an estimator who's probably a project manager, an estimator, and doing sales all at one time in order to make their salary worth it, right? But they don't have enough time, nor do they have enough experience. And being an estimator is very different than being a project manager, which is very different than sales. They are 3 different hats. And if you're going to hire a good, solid estimator that's really been around and really knows how to push the bounds and really knows the arguments, you're probably paying them $100,000+ a year. And that's a pretty big pill to swallow for the majority of restoration companies, especially when we are very cash flow hungry. It's a cash flow intense business, and you don't always have that salary. And if you are slow, and let's face it, this industry is very cyclical, you're still paying that salary. And what happens is you're then forced to hire a estimator who probably just isn't as good as they should be, and you're going to be in the $40,000 or $50,000 range. And by the way, the average restoration estimator is about $55,000 a year. You're just not getting much for it. And what we have found is when you work with someone like us, you're getting a fractional senior estimator. You're getting the individual who has 10+ years of experience. Both my estimators have 10+ years of experience. And you're not paying them $100,000 a year. You're paying by the project. So being able to do it piecemeal is super successful. Some other issues. I'm looking at my notes here. There's a lot of debate whether or not Xactimate should be continuously used in the industry. I mean, yeah, I'm biased. We work with Xactimate, but our clients don't have issues getting paid through Xactimate. They still have the same headaches, but in our opinion, moving away from Xactimate, some people are trying to go towards, just doing QuickBooks invoicing or, muddying the scope or something like that. And that's great if it works for you. But my personal feeling is adjusters have a boss. Everybody has a boss. And if you are trying to get paid as quickly as possible, that may work most of the time or some of the time, but it's well outside their box of understanding. And so our feeling is stay with the Xactimate platform and use it the way it's supposed to be. There is ample information out there that shows that you are supposed to manipulate the pricing to suit your costs. You really should change the trade labor hours on there, or the trade labor rates on there. And if you have somebody, a water technician, removing your P-trap, why are you using DMO labor? You should be using WTR labor. If you call it a plumber, change it to PLM labor. Doing things like that, actually catching all the line items, really do capture a lot. For example, if you're removing flooring, make sure you're detaching and resetting your HVAC register. And then from there, it's change your prices as you need. If you need to factor a price as a percentage to make it worth what you need to do to get paid and have your business, go ahead and do that. But at least you're staying within the parameters of what the industry pretty much dictates. Whether we like it or not, Xactimate's here to stay.
Yeah. Well, real quick, I wanted to touch on that just for 1 second before we get too far. I mean, that is, a lot of this stuff you're saying it sounds like just common sense, right? You got to make sure that you're properly notating that. But I got to say, and listen, I don't own a restoration business. I own a site development company. So our estimating process is a lot different. We're not looking for approvals outside of once we sign a contract. But what do you think? And I see this a lot in the Rebels. I mean, people are like, go to war about Xactimate. They are dogging it. They hate it. And then you've got the guys that love it. What do you think? What do you think makes it such a contentious kind of software to use in the industry?
Lack of business savvy. Okay. I'm going to take some flack for this. I put a post up last week for my other software company, and it got a few people annoyed, and that's good because I created a conversation.
Good.
But I think sometimes it's lack of business savvy. This might incite an argument as well, but a lot of the restorers that I meet get into the business because they want to help people. It's an altruistic calling, and they believe in helping people. And unfortunately, insurance is the byproduct of helping those people. But what happens is we lose the for-profit mentality, and a lot of restorers are just giving in and caving and not understanding where policies may state cost incurred or how to fight and standing up for themselves. So they just cave in. And when they just cave in, they try looking for other ways to maybe recover their losses. But if they would just hold their ground and understand their businesses and understand how cash flow works and understand how costs incurred work and have good, solid contracts with the homeowners, I think they might find themselves further ahead, because their customer really is the homeowner, not the insurance company. We give far too many concessions to the insurance carriers.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I see a lot of back and forth about it. I'm going to definitely check it out. And if anybody's thinking about giving Jeff flack about this, you got to come through me too first. So I've got your back on it, because everything you're saying, everything you're saying makes complete sense, right? I think as a digital marketing agency owner, one of my biggest whys of what I did this is I love to help people, right? I wrote a book about digital marketing. I'm giving away the blueprint on how to get the leads into your restoration business, but at the end of the day, we have bills to pay, right? I do run an agency. We do this for a living. And if we weren't conscious about cash flow and we weren't conscious about anything like this, we'd probably be a 501c3 charity or something like that. We'd have to register for, and that's just not playing the game. So I appreciate that insight. I don't think it should be such an area of contention. I think it just makes sense. You have something that kind of just lays it out for you that you get to plug it in and play. So back to the problem. So we talked about Xactimate, people just not being as business savvy as possible. And it's not a dig, right? It just is, hey, you really are trying to help people, but you have to be conscious of the money coming in, money going out. And Xactimate seems like it makes things easy. And by the way, we are not paid by Xactimate at all. But if anybody out there is listening that's involved, holler at me. We'll get your logo up or something like that. And then we could be really contentious. People protest outside my office with pitchforks that don't like it. But that's neither here nor there. So back on task. So we talk about some problems that you see, that you've seen. What do you think are 3 things that people can do to kind of help solve it? And this may be just a one answer deal to solve these issues. And we can use generalities as much as we want, but I want you to kind of walk me through, in your experience, what solutions are out there for these guys that are struggling, because, like myself, and I was on another podcast and they talked about, well, why can't we just hire in-house marketing guys, right? And I said, well, to do it correctly, you'd have to find this unicorn, right? And you'd have to have enough of a budget to spend. A good SEO guy, they're 150,000 plus a year for somebody that's good. Then you have to have a content writer. Then you have to have all these different hats and there's 30 of them, right? I have a huge team here, and every one of them is an integral part of this overall plan, the SEO part or pay-per-click and social media. So the idea that you can hire an in-house team is amazing, right? And if you could train those guys and they come in as experts, great. And if you can afford to have $300,000 a year as salary for an in-house marketing team, then have oversight, more power to you. I'm all about DIY, which is, again, with the book and the podcast, that's what I'm all about. But the reality is the majority of people out there can't do that, right? And outsourcing this stuff just makes sense financially. You're hiring an expert team to do something that's a very integral part of your business, right? So 3 things or some things that you can see that people can take immediate action on right now, because that's what we're all about, to kind of like solve that.
Get off the TPAs. Don't work with them. And
don't work with TPAs.
Don't work with TPAs. I mean, they are a cancer to this industry. Don't work with them. If you have to work with them to just get some revenue, get away from them just as quickly as possible, because there's a very big difference between being busy and being profitable. A
means to an end, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that would be a big one. And then knowing your numbers, I think, is huge. I mean, as a restoration business owner, I mean, you can have money in the bank and still not be profitable. Know your cash flow and understand your burn rates and figure out how to increase. And then it would also be figure out your numbers. I mean, one of the things that's great about us is if, we work with a franchise that just kind of signed up with us, and our median mitigation invoice is approximately double what they're currently working at. We're very excited to work with them, because if they're doing X and we're doubling that to here, justifiably so, just through running better invoices, they are doubling their revenue at the franchise level without incurring any additional costs. Imagine what happens to their profit margins, but also their ability to reinvest in the business by just capturing everything that's included or should be included in their invoicing.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, if you're listening out there, I mean, I hope this resonates with you. Hey, and if you're not listening, he just said doubling their their money with just getting their invoicing right? And like we talk about here, you double, triple your leads just by getting your internet marketing right. And you can't keep your head in the sand.
No, you can't. And I don't want to be so, extreme. Like, I will double your invoicing. Not necessarily, but I mean, our median mitigation invoice is about 10,400 or so, and our average is about 17,000. So, and that's from removing the outliers of $50,000 of above for the water mitigation side. So, I mean, if you're under 10 grand, there's some very easy ways to get it up there. I mean, use HEPA vacuums every single time, regardless of category. Use your air scrubbers every single time, regardless of category, and track your tasks. I can't tell you how often somebody says, yep, I was there during hours these days of the week, and it was July 31st and a Sunday. I mean, just missing your after hours times here and there and not charging for after hours HEPA vacuuming costs you big time dollars. You're paying your guys possibly overtime at that point. Capture it.
Yeah, no, and listen, you got everybody, and it's funny because we just today, my team posted up, we do a motivational post on Monday, and we talk a lot about knowing your numbers, right? You have to understand the data, and not knowing your numbers is like driving with your eyes closed. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people do it. They stick their head in the sand. They don't care. They're running it. They think, just like you said, there's money in the bank. They're profitable. And it turns out when they start really diving into the numbers, which everybody's guilty of at some level in their business. I'm sure there's always ways to optimize things in everybody's different business, no matter what industry you're in. But once they dive into the numbers, they realize, like, man, I'm leaving a lot of money on the table, no matter what they're doing. So you talked about, the obvious is financially, and we're talking specifically about outsourcing the estimating, exactly what, to what you do. You mentioned financially, right? You're getting like the cream of the crop estimator that's going to help make you money. What are a couple other reasons that people should consider, outside of the financial reasons, consider using a third-party estimating service like yourself?
Hiring. I mean, it is no secret that it is an enormous pain in the butt right now to hire anybody at any level in just about any capacity. We have been pretty fortunate. We've been able to hire really good estimators away from pretty good sized companies because we're able to offer them a lifestyle of remote work that others are not, and pay them more. And so to be competitive and hiring good people that are solid, it might be outside your budget. Plus you then have to train them. You then have to watch over their shoulder. You then have to be sure they're doing everything properly. It's just, you may have somebody wearing that estimating hat, but who's overseeing them? At our company, we have really good people doing the work and have the proper oversight. It's all we do. It's just dedication to it. So in the event we need to hire another estimator, we've already got the process dialed because we've already done it, and we know the profile of who to look for. It's not like you're going to Indeed and putting a post up and finding someone good. We have found people mostly through referrals and asking people who they know and things like that. It's true work to hire somebody good, and it takes months for us to hire one good person.
And it's expensive. The HR process is huge. I mean, that's why I have a few friends that are in the headhunting industry, and they're like bawling. They're driving brand new cars, nice boats. I mean, there's a lot of money in the hiring process, no matter what industry you're in, and especially in a service-based industry, because there's probably a lot of turnover, right? So you're hiring third party, to me, in certain regards, I think the day-to-day stuff, you need somebody there, you need somebody doing the MIT. But for estimating, for marketing, third party, I mean, if you find the right partner, you're getting the best of the best, usually at a significant discount than you paying yourself, right? And so I can only look at it in terms of, I'm not sure what your costs are or anything like that, and we can discuss that. But in terms of digital marketing, I mean, you're going from a minimum of a $24,000 a year marketing, getting a full service digital marketing team, versus spending $300,000 getting an in-house team, which is going to have no oversight. You're not an expert, so how are you even going to watch and make sure they're doing well? If you're already not tracking data, how are you going to even understand what they're doing? So there's a lot of, you're stepping off a pretty big cliff trying to bring this stuff in-house. So if you're like a lot of people out there that are struggling to hire people, you should consider the third-party stuff. I do want to take a step back, though. You mentioned don't do TPA work, and I guess we're going to have Richelli Mordecai on here so you guys can battle that out. Richelli came on because it's another thing. We talked a little bit before, I think, on the phone about this, how you've got this one area of people that are like, TPA is the way to go. You got to do it to be able to get your business built there. And then, you got the people that say you have to have Xactimate. And then there's people like, I hate it. I'm using QuickBooks. I'm doing whatever. And from my end, I'm always like, well, forget TPA. Like we're anti TPA here, because I firmly believe in being in control of your business, and generating your own leads, and rather being strangleheld and kind of backed into a corner to do what somebody else says. It really limits your business to grow. And we talk to a lot of different contractors a lot that are only doing that, and they're just so sick and tired of it. The hours, the pricing, everything that goes with the negative sides of the TPA. But I do understand that sometimes, getting stuff in is good, but you have to have an exit strategy, it seems like. And that seems to be like the consensus. Even Richelli, who says TPA, and she knows that it's contentious, she does agree that there should be an exit strategy. So do you see, outside of Xactimate, or any other, estimating softwares you think that are viable out there? Or you just,
everybody knows what Symbility is. Symbility is just a way for NextGear CoreLogic, which, this is not a knock at NextGear CoreLogic, but let's face it, CoreLogic is, at least in Colorado, I've got an active Colorado real estate license. CoreLogic owns the MLS here, at least in the Denver area. They're a big data company. And so the move to purchase Symbility is probably an act, grand scheme of things, big picture, to get data. My concern about what's going to happen is when you sign up with NextGear Dash, they are designed to integrate into your QuickBooks or whatever your financial platform is. They now know your costs. That to me is concerning. I don't know what they're going to actually do with the data, but to me that's bothersome. And then the move to Symbility is just one more way to have data capturing. Then you got Liberty Mutual and Safeco that have moved to that. Most of that's just on their end to save costs, because nobody knows how to use that platform anyway very well, and it's just difficult and comes in to be less expensive. So, Symbility just does not hold a large market share. I don't foresee a lot of people moving towards it. Even the adjusters don't like it. Pay attention to some of the adjuster Facebook groups, and they complain about Symbility too. So, I don't really view them as a threat, just so much as what goes on in the industry is just a lot of M&A, merger acquisition, a lot of data capture. And it's yeah. Everybody sees it, right?
The data. You need it, but you don't want everybody to have your data, right?
Right.
So back to estimating, right? So let's talk to the guys out there and ladies that are just starting out, right? And they're probably listening to this and like, well, we're definitely not hiring somebody. We can't hire an estimator. We're going to do everything ourselves, which is fine. What would you be? And I guess this is going to kind of help plug you guys a little bit. But what do you think like a good step for them to take? I think there is some value in learning, whatever you're going to be doing, at least having some sort of knowledge. So one, you don't get taken advantage of, and two, you make sure that you're partnering with the right company if you are going to outsource it. What are a couple things, resources maybe that you can point some of the newbies out there? And I mean newbie by new business owner, not new into the restoration industry. I don't know many people that don't have a background in restoration and just decide I'm going to start this business. What are some resources maybe you can point them in a direction to, or maybe some advice you can give them when it comes to estimating, to kind of help alleviate some of the missteps that people often take that you mentioned before?
You will never know everything. We still make mistakes too. There's 20,000+ line items in Xactimate. They're constantly changing. But if you're going to bite it off and start learning it, I would probably go get an Xactimate level 1. Not because they actually teach you anything about estimating, because they don't, but you'll learn the basic functionality, such as how to sketch to some degree, how to insert line items to some degree, how to manipulate the software at a very basic level. I don't really think there's any need for a level 2 or 3 certification. I don't even think any of my people are certified because they know how to use Xactimate. The certifications really only matter if you're going to be at the adjuster level, because for some reason they think that's important. On our end, I would do that just so you understand it, but they don't teach you, as I said, how to estimate. So from there, if you're going to take a class on how to estimate well, see if you can actually find a class out there. I'm guessing, and because I've taken a class there before, not for estimating, for something else. Have you had the Reitz Drawing Academy on here yet?
No.
So Jeremy Reitz runs a pretty good show. I know they have a estimating program out there for mitigation. I don't think they do mold or reconstruction. That I could be wrong, but that's when I talked to him last time. And if you want to go learn how to do it, by all means, try it. I mean, they do good stuff. I'm not in this to bring everybody to me. Some people are going to do it on their own. And then Actionable Insights. Getinsights.org has a really good wealth of information on there. And I think it's like $35 or $40 a month. You can find some good things on there. And then some of it is just try things and see if it gets approved. You never know, but make sure it makes sense and you can actually justify it in the back end.
So the bigger question is, can anybody afford your services? And not just you, just a third-party estimating service in general. Like if they're just starting out, how does that really work? Can you walk me through that a little bit?
So yes, it very easily is affordable because oftentimes we're free. Everybody likes that. So not only you got that payroll, we're often free. So we charge 4% of whatever's approved.
Okay.
Mitigation, 4% of whatever's approved. So let's just call it a $10,000 mitigation invoice. You get approved for $9,000. We invoice you based upon the 9. The reason we do that is because we want to put in everything justifiable, but I don't want to put in a bunch of fluff that I can't defend. So therefore, we only put in what we can defend. Let's take that out a little further. If you're doing $1 million a year at 4%, that's $40,000. Can you afford $120,000+ estimator for $40,000? I mean, it's a great win-win for you.
Yeah.
Reconstruction's the same fee. It's 4% of whatever's approved. We just break it into 2 payments. You got an initial fee of 2%. We want to work with you for any change orders or supplements you may have. So then when it's all done, we take 4% of whatever the final amount is less that initial amount. And where it becomes free is most people understand about costs incurred and that you can change Xactimate pricing and things like that. This works especially well in mitigation because it really is a cost incurred. And for those that are tough about it and hold their ground and onboard their customers right, we factor all of our invoices anyway. So anywhere between 8 and 20% we're adding to them. And as long as you're getting that paid for, which you're not going to get it every time, but more often than not you will, our services are free and you're getting some extra profit margin on there. So it's a win for everybody, really.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So, back to the resources. So, if anybody's considering a third party, you guys got to check Jeff out at Elkmont. He's got some really cool stuff and it sounds like anybody can afford it. So if I was a guy or a lady in those shoes where I needed somebody that's expert, that again, how important it is to get your invoicing right, because that's how you make money. And that's what everybody wants to do here. I mean, we sometimes lose clients because they feel like they're not making money, right? So you need to hold yourself accountable in the same way that you hold your third-party guys out there and check people like Jeff out. I wanted to talk to you. There's a friend of mine, John Isaacson, if you're familiar from Diojo.com. He has a Diojo podcast. He just published a few books. But he actually has a series of books called the Be Intentional series. He just published one. If you guys are looking for some resources, it's called How to Suck Less at Estimating. It's a really cool title. I'm waiting for mine to come in the mail. Yeah. So I'm interested to check it out. Jeff, and if you haven't heard of it, you got to check him out too. This guy, he very much gives away a lot of knowledge to people in the industry. So if you are having issues or you suck at estimating, check him out. But more so, if you're looking for a third party, you got to check out Jeff's company, Elkmont. So sounds like any size company can afford you. Sounds like they're going to save a lot of money on, not only just hiring, but the HR behind hiring, the hiring process, keeping those guys on. I mean, you keep your monthly costs and your overhead way down. It seems like it's going to be relative to what the work you're bringing in. And listen, free is my favorite 4-letter word. Well, it's not my favorite 4-letter word, but it's the only 4-letter word I can say on here without putting the big E on the bottom of the podcast. And sometimes that happens. So you and I talked a little bit about something you've got in a pipeline that we're gonna talk about a little bit further down the road, but I thought it was amazing. And I wanted to give you a little bit of an opportunity to talk about your other venture that you have going on, a new software that I think is going to be a game changer for anybody that's struggling with the estimating process. Can you talk to me a little bit about LEVLR?
Yeah, happy to. Thanks for the intro with that. So I will give the credit to my wife because she definitely thought outside the box. It is all too common that you have created a mitigation invoice or restoration estimate and you have your version of it and the adjuster comes back and just drops their version next to you and you have to come to some sort of agreement as to the scope. And, some people say, no, you must use your scope. You can't use anybody else's. It's totally unethical to use the adjusters. Well, let's face it. If we all play in the same sandbox and play somewhat nicely, this job does get done easier. Not saying you're going to make friends, but let's at least try to play nice, right? And so I called and asked a friend of mine at another Paul Davis office, how they were comparing these two documents, the estimates. and she had some people in her office doing it. And I called another friend. Oh, we spent hours doing it. Did a survey. The average estimator is spending 21 hours a week comparing adjuster to contractor estimates. That's half their work week doing really a task that doesn't actually make any money. And it's assuming that you're 100% accurate. I mean, I've done it myself. I have missed very expensive line items because I just simply overlooked them because somebody may have walked in my office or I just got distracted or who knows what the reason is and I missed it. There has to be a better way, and I have yet to find a solution. So we have created LEVLR, and it will hopefully be launching for a beta in the next week or two. We're almost done. We've been working on it for a very long time. And it is an automated tool that you will upload your contractor estimate in a PDF form and the adjuster's estimate in a PDF form, and it will compare those two. And it uses machine learning, so the more it gets used, the more users we have, the smarter it becomes. It's actually downright creepy and very cool. Because what we want to do is to shave that time down. So its first iteration is going to remove all the line items that perfectly match. Okay, great. If that's 2/3 of the line items that the adjuster already approved, you don't even have to go scanning through those. And then it will highlight those that have been changed to a certain degree or whatnot. We just uploaded a test over the weekend. And if it's taking you 2.1 hours, it went through 184 line items in 27.2 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're almost done with it, just tweaking a few last things before it's beta. But if we can get this thing down from, say, you're taking 2 hours to get everything done and talk to the adjuster to maybe 30 minutes and get everything done and still talk to the adjuster, imagine how many more of these comparisons you can do in a given week.
Yeah, that's unreal. So it sounds like I mean, you just mentioned, what was it, 20 something hours, and that's per. Yeah,
20 hours a week per estimator.
Per estimator. Wow. Yeah, I mean, think about how much. And okay, well, let's go back to the people that maybe having a guy in-house or they're doing it themselves. Like, think about what you could do with an extra 20 hours in a week. Like,
if you're not even missing anything, imagine what happens when you miss the $5,000 worth of insulation in the crawl space.
Right. So not only are you wasting 20 hours and whatever your hourly rate is and what you're billing, now you're missing $5,000 off of an invoice that you definitely are going to get approved on. Yeah. So LEVLR sounds like a game changer, man. That's really cool. Congratulations. I know firsthand how much work goes into developing any kind of app, software, whatever. There's a lot. So I'm really looking forward to, would you be willing to come on and talk about LEVLR once you guys get out there? Maybe we can give away some beta codes for some people to try it out.
Oh, absolutely. We're probably gonna be doing that in the next week or so. If anybody wants to sign up, you mind if I give you the URL for it?
No, you can't. I'm sorry. We have copyright laws now. And no, I'm just joking. No,
sure.
How does somebody how does anybody look at LEVLR? I've checked out the website and I watched a video, and not having to deal with these problems on our end, as far as my construction company goes, that thing looked insane. And the first thing I said to you, I think, was, I can't believe nobody's thought of this before. It's crazy. So yeah, go ahead and plug how people can check out LEVLR, and then we want to have you back on. Maybe you can do a little live demo with us.
Oh, I'd love to.
People can check us out on YouTube, and then if they're listening on Spotify, it'll force them to go over to YouTube and check out how this works.
Absolutely. So it's mylevlr.com, my and then LEVLR, LEVLR.com.
And you said your beta, you're going to be releasing some beta here in the next couple of weeks.
I'm hoping it's the next week or two. We've just got a few more things. Software, I'm not a software guy. Software is surprisingly difficult. So yeah, we just got a few little details to wrap up.
Yeah, it is. It's very difficult. There's a lot of work that goes into it. There's usually not a whole lot of fluff, and it's a house of cards. You can have a parenthesis in the wrong spot and completely destroy a lot of work.
Well, let's not say that.
No. I mean, it's it's funny because it's kind of like, so I deal with this a lot, and much like you said, you can overlook a line item on your invoice, like overlooking a parenthesis, and you've got red on your code and your whatever software you're building, and you just are spending hours and hours and hours trying to diagnose and figure out what the heck is going on, and you might have leaned on your keyboard the wrong way or something like that. So LEVLR sounds like a game changer. Elkmont Estimates sounds like just a no-brainer for anybody that's struggling with estimating. And listen, don't think of it like, we're not trying to plug anything really. We're really talking common sense, right? This podcast is talking about problems that you guys face, whether it's marketing related or sales based related. Now we're talking about estimating, because I noticed scrolling the groups on Facebook and talking to clients, this is a big time suck and a huge cost. Not only that, but most of you guys out there are not experts at estimating and dealing with it. What your experts are dealing with your clients and mitigating and fixing property damage and being the best restorer in the world, then you should be concentrating on that, because at the end of the day, that's what gets those line items on the invoices and gets them paid a little bit better. So I know invoicing is a huge area. So you need to take a look at outsourcing, your estimating. And if you want to just learn a little bit more about it, check out some of the stuff that Jeff mentioned. Check out John Isaacson's books. There's a ton of free resources out there to learn anything you want to learn, but you have to remember, at the end of the day, you can't be a box checker. You can't just learn a little bit just to get by and then think that's going to run your business, because you're going to end up like the good majority of guys out there that fail in this industry, and you're going to fail, right? So surround yourself with the people that are experts. And if you can get something like that at little to no cost to your company, I mean, what are you waiting for, right? So the guys out there that are chomping at the bit, the tens of listeners here that are listening to this probably, how do they get in touch with you, Jeff, to learn more about your business? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Shoot me an email, J, last name Diem at elkmontllc.com. Is there a way I can stick it? I guess I don't have a chat function for it, but
we'll put it in the guys. If you want to check it out, we will put this in the YouTube description. We'll put Jeff's contact information. Do you have a website, Jeff?
Yeah, there's also a contact card on there too. It's elkmontestimates.com.
elkmontestimates.com. And you can see him if you're watching this on YouTube. He's got his logo, but there you go. elkmontestimates.com. Jeff, it's been awesome. You've definitely provided so much value for us out there. You've kind of changed my mind a little bit about some things with the estimating. As much as a DIY guy I am myself, everything you said just makes complete sense. Like most things in business, it just takes a little bit of just sitting back and kind of decompressing and putting a little common sense to it, and realizing that some things are best left to the experts out there. And it sounds like you put a really good team of experts together solving problems in the restoration industry. I cannot wait to have you back on to talk about LEVLR, and I can't thank you enough for your time that you spent with us today. But that's it for this episode of the Restoration Rundown podcast. Jeff with Elkmont Estimates, teaching you why you need to outsource your estimating processes in your restoration business. Jeff, thanks a lot. We will talk to you soon, man.
All right. Thanks for having me.